What is this? What is this?
So welcome all back to the Flick Lab once again. This is bi-weekly film podcast where we look movies all around the world from all around the genres twice a month. And today we are being joined by our lovely guest, Allison. Hey Allison, how are you?
Hello, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. First things first, would you like to introduce yourself to our listeners and tell everybody exactly who you are and what you do?
Sure. So I'm Allison Kilkenny. I've been podcasting for many, many years, news and comedy. I'm a writer, a producer, all that stuff. But yeah, primarily politics and comedy, I think is why people follow me.
So basically, you are someone with a really large set of skills and with overall insight into topical matters, which makes you kind of a perfect fit for this podcast and today's episode.
Exactly. You put that so much better than I was.
And on top of Allison, we are also having our mainstays here. We have Karri, the man who will absolutely spend 4 hours of our 2-hour time slot to tell you everything that is wrong about the mask, the walk, the knife, the overalls. And we have Zach, our American add-on, here to give us the American perspective, telling us exactly how everything that happens in today's film is absolutely normal and there is nothing out of ordinary, happens basically every other day. The only superpower in the world.
It's funny because I was expecting you to tell like a joke when you talked about me, but everything you said was real. So that was a change of plans. But okay, whatever.
Since I'm leading today, I'm taking everything extremely seriously. And our film today is Halloween Kills. Michael Myers is back. The serial killer who has died and been resurrected so many times that his own franchise has to have rebooted at least twice, maybe even 3 times, depending on how you count. But now he's most definitely back. Once again.
And definitely killing.
And completely negating there's no coming back from this ending of the last movie. In a franchise that has all the film buffs who usually crave for 3-dimensional, multi-layered characters, now all of a sudden championing a dude who has to be the most one-dimensional character ever seen on screen. Oh no! Gang, what did you all think about Halloween Kills?
Oh boy, I did not like this film. I sorry to be negative right off the bat, but the Halloween franchise has never actually been my thing. And I have been trying to sort of fill in the holes, the gaps in my horror film knowledge recently. So I have started watching all of the Halloween films, and I believe I'm up to like 5 or 6 now. But I saw Halloween Kills yesterday, and it's such a strange film. I really feel like they were struggling to figure out the tone of it. They didn't know if it was supposed to be a comedy or a satirical or a drama in some places. It felt very strange in that way. I was very, very confused about the treatment of Jamie Lee Curtis in this film. I love Jamie Lee Curtis. That's actually been one of the highlights for me going back and watching the Halloween films. She's just so charismatic and so charming, and you can't take your eyes off her when she's on screen. And they have just robbed her of all of her charm in Halloween Kills. And it was just, I know it was coincidental as well, and I'm sure we'll talk about this more in depth later. I know it was just a coincidence of timing that there is a storyline in this film about a largely white mob happening so close after the Capitol riot. I know they had filmed that before the Capitol riot happened, and it's just like shitty timing. But I couldn't not think of the Capitol riot, and I was like, I don't want to watch, again, a largely white mob hunt down a man and kill him, like, because they have bad intel. It's just a little too close to home. So yeah, I this film's a mess, I guess, is the short of it.
Yeah.
We are gonna most definitely have a lot to discuss today. I feel really bad for you, Allison, both for being in this podcast and having to deal with Halloween, because Halloween, I have to warn you, Halloween franchise is something that is in the roots of our podcast. It's not like the first episode that we ever did, but our first things that we did as a podcast was go through the entire franchise.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
Yeah, not so cool afterwards, the feeling and all.
Yeah, it's really uneven. I mean, like, and I had been warned going into that. You know, I have a friend who's a hardcore Halloween fan, and he was like, there are very bad movies. I don't know if you should see all of these. And I was like, I'm a completist, though. I want to watch everything. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And yeah, it's uneven.
Yeah, and it's correct what you said about the treatment of, well, at least the character of Laurie Strode in this film. And it's going too much to the direction of where Laurie Strode's character is supposed to kind of take the helm of everything. I don't know what's going on with the script writing, but she's so determined to get out of the hospital and fix the situation, like it would be all on her shoulders. And I can understand why she would see that way.
She's just ripping open her sutures, and like it's pretty painful to watch her try to fight. She just had major surgery.
Yeah.
They are essentially what they are trying to do in script department wise, at least in my opinion. They are trying to make her the new Loomis of the franchise since ever since from 2018. This canon of Halloween doesn't truly had Loomis in it.
I noticed that the audience was laughing when she was trying to get out of the hospital and injected herself with whatever I don't care thing and tried to get out of the hospital.
Oh, I mean, she's just a lunatic in this movie. Yeah. I guess the voice of reason would be Karen, who's completely boring in this movie. But she's at least, played by the great Judy Greer, who I love very much. Again, another actress who is so charming, usually. And I'm like, what are you doing to Judy Greer in this film? I hate this character.
They can't seem to decide what's going on with this character.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that this movie is a triumph. Its action sequences are engaging. It highlights Jamie Lee Curtis as being a badass, and the scares are terrifying. And those are all the things. Those are all the things I would say if this were opposite day.
Oh, okay. I thought we were gonna have a hot take, and I was like so into it. I was like, yes.
Yeah, I don't understand this film. I don't understand.
Yeah.
From my understanding, this is a part of a planned trilogy when David Gordon Green approached Jamie Lee Curtis and said, "Hi, big fan. I want to revive this franchise. I want to do a brand new trilogy that's going to start after the first Halloween, and we're going to ignore all the sequels." A great idea.
Again.
Like you said, there's some lumps in there. And that this trilogy was created. So of course, Act 2 in any sort of 3-act structure is always always the difficult part. And whoa, this second act is, meaning this whole film is, I don't get it. Why do we come to see Halloween movies? We come to see Laurie Strode face off against Michael Myers. Yep. This film has a total of zero times that Laurie Strode faces off against Michael Myers. Zero.
Yes, she's completely incapacitated. And this is quite the departure from Halloween 2018 and what it set out to do, which confuses me greatly. So Halloween Kills, it's a pure slasher film, which should kind of deliver for the gore hounds. But other than that, substance, it's hard to find in this film.
The body count in this movie is crazy. I just like the pace at which they were killing characters, and that's where I was confused about the tone, because it felt like some of the deaths were played up for the comedy, and then other deaths were played to be taken like very seriously. So I was confused as to how the director wanted us to feel about what we were seeing. But I was really struck by, I was like, oh, this is a true slasher film. They are just killing people left and right.
Speaking of the playing it for comedy, in any of your theaters, did you have, I think someone mentioned it earlier, how many times were people laughing? Because I was laughing.
Well, I watched it at home. I had a feeling, I had heard some buzz like on film Twitter that this was not good. So I was like, you know what? I'm picking my moments when I go to the theater. I'm trying to be like a little cautious. So I was like, I'm going to watch this at home. So I can tell you, I was laughing a lot. And often when I don't think I was supposed to be laughing.
I had multiple moments of like looking over at my husband in the seat next to me and like us giving each other these like wide-eyed looks of like, are they fucking serious right now?
Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah, I guess it wasn't surprising that they gave the film for critics to see only like, what was it, 24 hours before it was supposed to be out.
Always a horrible, horrible sign. They held it. They were supposed to show the critics it a couple weeks ago, I think, and they kept bumping it. And they said, you know what? You guys are going to get it when the audience gets it, which is always like, you guys know
Red
this
flag.
is a bad film. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, to me, when I think back on like sort of these classic Halloween iconic images, I think of, you know, those moments when the hero or the heroine sort of face down the bad guy and you're like, okay, bitches, get ready. Here we go. For me, like I think of H2O, which I know has some haters and some lovers. I'm a lover of that one. There's that great moment when she knows that he's back, and then when the kids come into the door and she closes the door and they're looking at each other through that circular window in the door. And you're like, this is it, bitches. Like, get real. In one corner, we have Jamie Lee Curtis. In the other corner, a madman. And they don't even look at each other. They're not even in the same room this entire time. And she's so determined to tell people he's going to come to the hospital. He's going to come for me. He's going to come to the hospital. Does he go to the hospital? No, he does not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really, really frustrating because the only Halloween film I saw in the theaters was H2O, which I loved. And I still love. I just rewatched it. I think it's so fun. And you're so right. Where like Jamie Lee Curtis is such a badass in that film. When she sends them off in the car and then she breaks the gate, so she's locked in with Mike Myers, I was just like, you are a goddess. Like, she's so strong. She's such a badass. And I was like, I miss that Jamie Lee Curtis. And I know she still has it in her. This is just a matter of, like, bad writing.
Yeah.
There's so many points of what I can only call confusion here. The 18th film, it had the clear objectives. It was supposed to push the reset button, and it kind of did, and served as a direct sequel to the 78. And it had like a couple of concerns that it wanted to fix, like the sister-brother angle, which eliminated the element of randomness and lack of motive. I don't have a huge problem with the sister-brother angle, but... And then secondly, it tried to remove the supernatural antagonist, which you get to in the Halloween 2 from 1981. Because antagonist burns as it happens. And so he's shot multiple times in 1981 film Halloween 2, burns up in flames. I felt that the appeal of the 78 Michael in the original was the kind of the ambivalency of the character. You couldn't tell whether this is a pure flesh and blood stalker or if it's completely supernatural or it's just a perceived supernatural kind of duality going on. You don't know if it's flesh and blood or supernatural. And even Henrik has suggested in this podcast that the first film kind of holds a story of transformation for the character. Michael coming from man into a supernatural entity. It could be seen like that. And maybe David Gordon Green sees it like that. Because he kind of uses that interpretation in the end of the story. Like stating outright that the murders themselves transform him, kind of shoving it on the audience's face in a voiceover and not even leaving it in the subtext. I have no illusions here about the whole Halloween Kills. It's not for the creme de la creme critics out there who are looking for their kind of artistic fix. It is what it is. I can't be expecting the original vibes.
One thing that I thought that was, I thought, oh God, this is not a good sign in the first minute and a half was, oh, maybe it's not, because it doesn't actually start on Laurie's house that's burning down. I think it actually starts back in the 70s. But when they got to sort of where we left off in the first one, the house is burning down, the firefighters are there, and they get, one of them falls down into the basement, and then this like garage door opens and Michael has been hiding in there, and I thought, well, okay, that's a retcon, because the entire this woman, Jamie Lee Laurie, has spent 40 years planning this. She designed this house to be a trap, in one of the most epic sort of final little twists at the end of the first one. If you're like, oh, the whole house is not a cage, it's a trap, and then puts him down in this basement. Oh, but there was a door down there, and he can hide in there, and that's he'll be fine in there. Why is that door there? So that retcon was for me like, oh shit, is this telling of things to come? It did not portend well.
But that sort of speaks to my main beef with the Halloween franchise is you have a antagonist who cannot die. So by definition, you sort of have to retcon things like that, because it's like, right, Mike Myers cannot die. Why does anyone in these films try to shoot Mike Myers? Like, have we not learned by this point? Like, this man is a legend. The entire town knows about him. Why is anybody trying to take him out, like, through conventional means? It's sort of like, have we not learned by this year that Mike Myers can't die this way? But
or the fact that whenever someone does have an opportunity and they do shoot him or stab him or something, they do it like once and go, okay, well, I guess that was good, right?
Right.
We're all good.
That's kind of the sequel problem, that this film was supposed to be a one-off originally from Carpenter. Do Halloween, okay, and then move on with the anthology series that they tried with Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, with not so good results, unfortunately.
no.
So the character was originally this kind of a blank slate, and you couldn't tell what was going on with the character, what was the background, and it worked for one story. Once you have to make sequels, you have to amp up the backstory and all the bullshit. But Henrik, what do you think about the whole thing that, I think what David Gordon Green's intention was with the 2018 film, as well as to kind of reboot it and make it kind of a blank slate again? What do you think about the amping up of the gore factor here? Because that's kind of what the 1981 sequel does. And also, I thought the point was to kind of remove the Superman shit, and here we go again.
Well, to give you all the white cis straight man perspective in the things which is the only perspective that matters, and all of you, the rest of you can all go to hell. It's undeniable that what Gordon Green is shooting for is kind of amping up the gore factor. And when coming to Halloween Kills, that's kind of the mindset that you have to take with the film. Like, this is most definitely the movie that you will see for the kills. It's not like it was with 2018 version where you had like character development and like some type of a take of Michael Myers' character and an examination of Mike Myers, where kills is purely for, like the title says, for the kills. It does create kind of a mixed bag effect with the films, but I'm still quite on board with what Gordon Green is doing. Now, having seen both 2018 and Halloween Kills, my understanding of the situation is that Gordon Green is basically doing, most likely, this is my guess, he's doing the first two Halloweens, like the themes of first two Halloweens stretched into 3 movies. Like the first 2018 version is mostly about Mike Myers is just a psychopath. And that's how Carpenter's original starts. And my reading of the ending is that there is the transformation that happens. At the end of a film, Mike Myers is the boogeyman. And Halloween Kills now would be the ending of Carpenter's original. This is the film where Mike Myers really becomes the boogeyman and is the boogeyman for most of the film. And my guess is that Halloween Ends would play out like Halloween 2, which would be Laurie Strode facing off Michael Myers in the hospital setting.
I have kind of interesting ideas or kind of a feels that I get from David Gordon Green. Like, okay, this is the kind of the middle part, the Two Towers syndrome of being the second part of the trilogy. What I'm hearing about Halloween Ends is that it's going to take a leap in time, directly from the David Gordon Green's mouth. Quote, everybody has their process and time does a lot to the intellectual realization of these events, end quote. You know what this reminds me of? Have you guys dug into the whole Halloween 4 script, penned by Carpenter and Dennis Etchison, like a million years ago? He took like a more psychological direction to the script. Like Halloween was banned in Haddonfield, and there was a collective fear of the boogeyman, which created this ghostly entity, kind of like Freddy Krueger direction, to be honest. And by this ghostly version of Michael would get stronger from his kills, and by the end growing in physical size into 10 feet. Wow. Like, I have to wonder if this is the direction that DGG wants to take the franchise into.
I would say most likely yes, judging by the evidence. Like
right.
At the end of Halloween Kills, Michael's supernatural side is unquestionable. Laurie Strode has an entire monologue about how Michael Myers grows stronger from each kill. He essentially is kind of like a video game character at this point. He gets 15 XP from every Haddonfield citizen that he mows down, and they have like they go of 2 and they do 2d6 plus 2 damage.
How does she know these things? She just voices it out for the audience there.
Don't ask those questions, Karri.
But
don't ask those questions.
But
what do you mean? How she knows this? She inherits the spirit of Loomis.
Okay,
and that was like Loomis' the whole shit when you actually really look at Halloween films.
But that's a bit psychotic because we already noticed that she was kind of surprised about the fact that Michael Myers is still alive after burning inside the house. What? Okay, yeah, this means that he's gonna be supernatural now.
Well, yeah, it is a bit psychotic, granted, but once again, just look at Sam Loomis in this franchise.
Yeah.
The only man, the man whose only like role in the films at the end of the day is just get more unhinged from one film to the next. And have like a hotline to Haddonfield whenever they have a Mike Myers sighting. Sam Loomis quickly gets into his psychomobile and cruises off to Haddonfield to give his "I saw this young boy, there was nothing behind his eyes" speech.
Looking past the wall. But yeah, like Carpenter has given his kind of creative input for the Halloween Kills in the form of script notes. So I have a pretty heavy feeling that he has some kind of flashbacks from the previous script that maybe we should actually film this.
You know, one of the things that is also stuck in my craw is one of the things that I think H2O does beautifully, and also the 2018 version as well, is it sort of takes a realistic view of what if a person really did go through this trauma, and what would it do to that person's psyche and how they viewed the world and how they interacted with the world. So in H2O, for example, she's an alcoholic, and at the end of that film, she has this moment that I think is the moment that everyone in the audience goes, "Yes, Queen, that's exactly the right thing to do," which is the body's being carried off in the ambulance, and she steals the ambulance because she's like, "Oh no! I've done this too many times. I'm going to make sure this fucker is dead," which is the right thing to do. And in this film,
Yeah.
she does not do that. The house is burning, and she does. I do like the let it burn, let it burn. Like, okay, yeah, that's cool. But no. I think Laurie Strode would have said, "Yeah, I'm going to stand here and let it burn, and then when it's done, we're going to all dig through the rubble until we find the bones, and then we're going to get the DNA testing done, and we're going to make sure that fucker's dead." But she doesn't. She just goes, "Well, the house was partially burned when I left, and now I'm in the hospital, and I'm just going to say, we got him. We got him, everyone."
Yeah, there's no insight into like what she's thinking or experiencing as this multi-generational survivor. She's just like a crazy old woman, in the hospital where you were talking about H2O. We have all this rich insight into, yeah, she's an alcoholic, but she also like suffers from hallucinations sometimes and it's really effective how they, show that. You genuinely don't know if Mike Myers is stalking towards her or if it's like her booty call,
Yeah, the PTSD is real.
Yeah, and we get to see like the trauma examined with the relationship with her son. Like there's this whole exploration of who this woman is and how a human being would come out of the experience of something so traumatic happening to them. And in Halloween Kills, yeah, she's just really reduced to ranting old lady, which I'm like, man, that's such a disservice, not only to this character who so many people love, but to this wonderful actress.
David Gordon Green, I have never heard him say that this movie, Halloween 2018, would be about trauma specifically. But yeah, clearly it is also that. But I think it's something that Jamie Lee Curtis wants to bring up over and over and over again in interviews, because it's something that it's an important subject to her, and maybe something that she wanted to include into the film, because we know that she's kind of a women's activist and a lot of activists. So maybe this is the kind of theme that told her that maybe I should return.
It's also the most human part. It's the most human part. It's how humans respond. We see so many slasher flicks and horror films where this crazy stuff happens and then people seemingly just move right along. And that's why I like that this is so different. Again, I'm going to keep bringing it up, H2O in 2018, where we go, oh no, like the PTSD would be off the charts. There would not be enough therapy and liquor to get you through the day.
Right. I was so confused. I mean, actually, what you guys have been talking about has shed a little more light on it for me. I didn't know that there was this whole plan to have like a trilogy to sort of cap off this franchise. And it makes me a little more hopeful, because you're so right that the second film in a trilogy is notoriously always the weakest. It's the hardest from a storytelling perspective. I was just very confused as to why Jamie Lee Curtis would have been okay with this, but maybe she knows something is coming. Maybe she knows that Halloween Ends will sort of pay off for this character in a way that did not happen in this film. So I'm a little optimistic. Like maybe they have a plan that I just don't know about.
From your lips to God's ears.
Then again, to me, this smells like a situation where this was not planned as a trilogy originally.
Well, they have gone on record to say that they plan to shoot at least, was it 2 movies?
They have
back in 2018, and then they said that, okay, well, let's wait it out and see how the 2018 version goes.
They went on record saying that when 2018 was already in production, which leads into a very strong possibility, since we all know that movie productions are something that can take a lot of time, sometimes even years, especially the pre-production phase of any movie production. So the possibility, even though it's not been officially admitted, but I think when looking at the Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills, to me the situation reads heavily that originally Halloween 2018 was written as a standalone film, that is its own thing. And once they got funding for Halloween 2018, once it was in production, the idea arose that we are actually going to make a trilogy of these films. And they just released the news at that point stating that no, this was the original plan.
Well, of course you can go against what they have said publicly, but I do know for a fact that they have said that they wanted to shoot at least 2 movies. It was but they decided against it. Let's see how the 2018 version goes. And immediately after Halloween 2018 wrapped, they went into the pre-production with the second one.
But even what they have said, like that direct quote, almost direct quote that you took from them, still states only 2 films, and that's not a trilogy. Like even their own quote states that this was not planned as a trilogy. Even though no matter how hard they wanna sell you the idea now, and basically what that smells to me is that originally the script was written as a standalone. And they found out the possibility of sequels, once the script had been greenlit.
But there's nothing standalone about Halloween 2018, that's for sure. The way it ends.
It can end on its own way. Like, even the way how the fucking film is shot. Like, the way how you see Michael Myers in a death trap in a burning building behind the bars, looking back at Laurie. They two looking at each other up from eye to eye. Basically, what all that telegraphs to you is that this is it. This is the ending.
Yeah. And then they go to the car, and we never see any proof of him dying or falling down, anything like that.
No, but at that point, you basically are all like you are transitioning into, you are looking at it from the sequel perspective. Like you are looking at it with the experience that you have had seeing all the previous Halloween films, seeing 6 of these things and seeing Michael Myers coming back every single time. You have like that hindsight. If you would look at 2018 film as from a fresh perspective, without all the package or all the sequel feelings that you have gathered by looking at the franchise, I would say that it actually very much telegraphs that this is the ending.
No, total sequel baiting.
I think I think the difference, or I think the key piece of info here is that at the very end of 2018, after the credits have rolled, at the very end of the credits, you have the sound of Michael Myers still breathing. So I think it is definitely sequel baiting.
Well, that's always the thing about these films and a franchise like this. I feel like they will always leave open the possibility of, well, we could make another one of these, especially if it makes a lot of money. Yeah, exactly. It's like they will never, ever, ever stop making these films if they know that they'll make a ton of money. And it shows how lasting the franchise is, that Halloween Kills is doing pretty well despite the pandemic. People really, really love horror films. They love slasher films. They love Halloween. So as long as the demand's there, it's like they'll keep bringing Michael back.
Right. And if you look at Halloween H2O as well, the contract for Jamie Lee Curtis for doing that, which did apparently, reportedly piss her off, but she did sign it, said that she has to do 2 Halloween films. So it would not be the end in H2O.
Oh, and they'll keep it going past Jamie, certainly as long as she's around and willing to do what they want to include her, because she's beloved. But I could see the franchise going past her involvement as well.
Yeah.
I mean, the franchise is, of course, is never going to go away. Testament to that is that it has already been rebooted, 2 or 3 times, depending on how you count it. But when it comes to Michael Myers breathing at the end and after the credits, I wouldn't read too much into that, since that's basically John Carpenter original. And even John Carpenter has stated that it was not supposed to mean any kind of a sequel.
I want to bring up something else. I do think that they had a really cool idea in this film of bringing back grown-up versions of the kids.
Sounded good.
I think that's a great idea. That's something that, again, you get to look at what are the effects of this traumatic event happening to you, except now, I guess you could say Laurie herself is also a child in the original, but an older child. But then how would it affect these little kids? And they bring back Kyle Richards. I don't know which housewife she is.
Oh, I do. Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. And I am obsessed with Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. And I was so curious to see Kyle Richards in this. And I have to say, she was one of my highlights. She did a great job.
Yeah.
Really?
Yep. Yeah. I thought she did a great job. I wanted more of Lindsay. I thought the whole scene at the playground was great, and Kyle did a great job acting. She looked genuinely terrified. I was really impressed because I'm a huge Bravo fan, and I've seen her so much on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. I was like, oh, right, you are an actress, and I forgot that.
It's a shame that the film does really nothing substantial with the characters that they reintroduce. It's kind of fan service, but really peculiar fan service at that, because most of them get butchered as soon as the opportunity presents itself. And this is also the second time that Michael Myers kills Marion Chambers in the franchise. One sympathizes.
That poor woman. That scene there where they're in the vehicle and at the park as well. It was just... I'm sorry. I thought that there were parts of that were just laughable. I mean, her shooting that gun so wildly, and then she's just shooting people inside the car. It was.
Don't get me wrong. It was bad. It was bad. In the way this movie, like, anytime there's a glimmer of something like, oh, that was pretty good, they immediately undercut it with, like, the dumbest thing you've ever seen in your life. So
how does someone hold shooting a gun away from them, and then someone opens a door on them, and then they then turn the gun and then shoot themselves in the face? I don't know how that happens, like, physiologically.
Right.
No matter how it happens, but it was fun kill to see.
Can we talk about the flashback?
A funny kill.
It was also fun.
The flashback.
No, the kill.
And what about the flashback?
No, the kill.
Yeah, but what about the flashback?
That was not that funny.
Well, that was the best.
Christ. we are talking about now the doctor lady shooting herself in the face.
Yeah, really funny.
That's fun. The flashback, not fun.
Yes, it is fun. It's the best part of the film.
It's partly fun, but it's not nearly as much fun.
It's the best part of the film, even though the...
Most definitely that. But the best part of the film is that one guy who gets his eyes gouged out. Or that one, Smithgrove inmate who jumps from the window.
Oh.
Yeah, that was a proper death. Like that got some yikes from the audience.
Yeah, that was one of those deaths though that I felt like I feel like you want me to like pause here and appreciate the gravitas of this, but it's hard to when you've like had so many moments of just sheer ridiculousness in this film that I've been like laughing my way through.
It really felt like they were trying to say something with the mob mentality.
Yeah, and I didn't know what.
Oh, it was bad. I mean, here what I got from that was they were trying to say, this is what bad filmmaking looks like.
It's kind of what they did in Halloween 4. There was also a lynch mob.
Yeah, but this time the lynch mob actually is like a real presence in the film. In Halloween 4, originally the lynch mob just shows up, it fucks up once.
Yeah, kills a
person. And then just quickly fucks off. And here the lynch mob is with the story, well, practically throughout the end. In some capacity. Granted, the lynch mob is largely ineffective once again, and they do fuck up once again, as the lynch mob always does in these films. But like now, at least the lynch mob was present, and with the lynch mob, I do think that what the film is aiming at, it's playing to the concept of Michael Myers being kind of a ghastly spirit over Haddonfield. Like the lynch mob largely leans on the concept, at least in my reading, the concept of communal trauma and what that trauma does to the community. In here, the lynch mob is largely organized by Tommy Doyle, who is a Mike Myers survivor. And at the very beginning of the film, Tommy Doyle puts 3 other Mike Myers survivors into a literal spotlight. Like, pinpoints them out. These people survived, and those are kind of, those form the emotional core around which the rest of the lynch mob gather behind. We don't remember who Mike Myers was. We are too young, we haven't even heard of the dude. But, oh my god, in the bar there are 4 victims of the previous killing spree. We can't let that happen again. Evil ends tonight. And then Tommy Doyle takes the charge and starts leading the entire mob and organize like Haddonfield-wide search of Mike Myers.
Yeah, and this type of approach never really worked in the franchise when
Yeah.
you have multiple people against Michael Myers.
The one potentially interesting moment I thought from the whole mob disaster was when I forget which character confronts the police officer and says something like, I'm paraphrasing, well, you guys have never helped us, or something to the effect of the police have been inept in trying to stop Mike Myers. And I thought, had they leaned more into that sort of, you were talking about generational trauma and this community sort of trying to like rally together to directly fix something that the police have been incapable of fixing, that potentially could have been interesting, but then they just really went with the mob thing and it was like, all right, I guess we're doing this.
Yeah, the mob doesn't truly work. At least not in the capacity that I got the feeling that the film wanted it to work.
Can we talk about something that works, the flashback?
I actually really, really liked the flashback. I thought I had read some reviews about how this film almost had like a masturbatory approach to nostalgia and the mythology of Halloween. But to me, I thought it was so cool, especially fresh off of, you know, me seeing the original Halloween, the sort of filling in of the gap of like what had happened between the massacre and, you know, everybody like finding out what had happened was fascinating. I thought that was really cool. The set design was awesome and like kind of gave me chills when we went back to that time period. I thought it was really, really cool.
I didn't like all the plot points that it was bringing, but I thought that it was lit extremely well, and the props were like perfectly from that era and those two films, original films. I thought that the camera was a little bit more restless here compared to the originals, but I do appreciate how much they made it work aesthetically. It's basically maybe almost that you would be jumping into the world of those original films, and I think these efforts also contributed to the rest of the film's mood and the atmosphere, the lighting especially.
Really, man? Really?
Obvious.
You wanted to keep up with the flashback just so that you can talk about set design.
But it's one of the only positive things in this film. Like, I thought the attention to detail was great. I thought the set design was great. Their costumes looked great. Props were great. In terms of this film, that was one of the highlights where I'm like, well, there was a lot of attention to detail in the flashback.
It was, and I don't know what props you're talking about, Henrik, but I'm talking about the coat on the Loomis, or the Michael Myers house, or the coats on the police officers, and how the Michael Myers mask looks.
I'm not talking about any props. Didn't mention any of them.
Okay, I mentioned props and I mentioned lighting. And the lighting, I think the way that they studied it from the original films brought the lighting in a better way into this sequel compared to Halloween 2018, where I was all the time complaining about the lighting.
And bringing back Loomis.
Yeah,
I was trying to figure out that was just old footage they had used of him, but the way they incorporated it was pretty seamless.
It seems like a face replace.
Okay, yeah, I was trying to figure out how they did it.
But I'm not sure, yeah.
Other positives, I don't know if I have any others.
Struggling to find, scrolling through notes.
Well,
I'll be
let's
honest.
talk about positives. Let's talk about positive subject matters. Hey, white mob violence and Capitol riots. Our guest already brought it up. What are your feelings about that?
Man, it was unfortunate. I feel bad for the filmmakers because I know now that I understand the timeline of when they shot this, it really was just like bad luck on their part. But yeah, it was all I could think about. It was literally like even to like the smashing in the doors. I mean, like some moments because I watched the riot happen as like live as it was happening, and there was footage of people like smashing in the doors and windows, and it was very reminiscent of that. And I was like, ooh, I don't want to watch this.
Allison, what did you think about the amount of exposition in the film?
Oh, yeah, just so much. And like, I don't know. I don't like films that sort of assume the audience needs to be walked through every plot point in minute detail, especially when the film is already struggling with pacing and, you know, so many other things. But yeah, it was a lot.
there's a very interesting thing where when Laurie Strode is in surgery, which I think it needs to be brought up again, she's cut wide ass open. And then it seems like she wakes up from surgery 20 minutes later, and then she's like up and about. I'm like, shouldn't she be asleep for the next 24 hours?
Yeah, like okay, what is happening?
But anyway, but while she's in surgery, you hear this dialogue from the doctor, and he's both explaining what he's doing in terms of like, oh, let's check to see if there's any punctures here, and he's explaining that, and also explaining, like what her prognosis is going to be. To who is he talking to?
The dumbass audience who can't figure out anything on our own apparently and need everything explained to us. I was like, holy shit! Can someone just talk like a real human in this movie?
Yeah, that was bad. And then the other moment that's really this exposition. They're at this bar. It's Halloween night, and there's a talent show happening. I don't understand. I don't understand that. I don't understand when bars started hosting talent shows. At first, I thought it was karaoke, because the first thing that we see is someone singing, and I was like, oh, so this is supposed to be a karaoke bar. Okay, fine. But then like, oh no, it's a talent show. And then Homeboy gets up there and does some sort of like, I want to tell you the story of when I was a kid and we almost all got slaughtered. I'm sorry, that's your talent?
That's his talent is trauma. Recapping his trauma for the 5 sad alcoholics in this bar. Yeah.
That was bad. That was bad.
But speaking about Homeboys having a talent, this most likely is the most like presentive entry in the Halloween franchise when it comes to giving presentation. Like, this is the one, at least the only one that I can remember where you have a guy in drag and it's not played as a laugh. Like, certainly it's a carryover from the previous film where it was kind of a like building off as an awful joke that this one asshole does, but Halloween Kills still stuck with that. He never put pants on. He stayed in the dress, and as the film and with this film, it's actually finally like forgets and let's go of that jokey joke. This is my funny Halloween costume thing, and he just stays in it.
Yeah, but he mentions that he has a girlfriend real quick. Like I was watching that scene and like it's like the first thing out of his mouth because I think they still wanted the audience to be like, calm down, it's a straight man in a dress. You know? Like, it's all right.
Yeah, I think that we could even have an argument of whether or not that's actually considered drag. I think that, that there's some nuance, I think, between what's just cross-dressing versus just a costume versus drag.
Right.
Yeah, kind of.
But, yeah.
This is something we didn't talk about yet. There is a gay couple in this film named Big John and Little John. And they said their names in this film, and I said, fuck you, out loud. Because I was like, what is this?
And what is this use of these completely useless side characters who don't...
Useless!
They are not connected to the main plot in any way.
I don't like them. Like, if you're going to have side characters like that, make them, like, real enough that I care when they die. That was another moment where I felt like the deaths were supposed to impact me. Like, the way that Big John has his head on Little John's lap. Like, clearly he was, like, cradling him before he died. I should feel something when you show me that, and I don't because these were not real characters. You didn't flesh them out.
I also didn't feel anything when he was that when they're finally both dead and he's sort of cradling him like they are in the picture.
Yeah.
But the reason I didn't feel anything was because all I was thinking was, oh, he swapped them. They're in the wrong position. The other one's supposed to have his head in the other one's lap. That's all I was thinking.
Yeah.
What about the career gender swap that happens with the court couple, where now the woman is a doctor and the man. The husband is a nurse.
So dumb. I was just
felt
like...
so pandering.
Yes. And when they said it out, like, they don't trust the audience. So they were sort of like, I'm the doctor and they're the nurse. And I was like, I get it. I get what you're doing. I hate it.
And when it's pandering, the wife husband doctor nurse thing, the gay couple, and just the fact that like they introduced the gay couple and he's sitting there cutting up things to create a charcuterie board.
Oh, and they've completely gutted the house to make it like ultra modern. It's like every stereotype ticked off.
Oh my gosh. It was and what's funny is one of the people playing the gay characters is Michael McDonald, who was on Mad TV, which is a sketch comedy show here in America. And I don't know if I've ever seen him do anything serious. He is a big laughs comedian. He's hysterical. So I will give that one prop of, oh, that's interesting. Judy Greer too.
There's a lot of comedy people in this, which it's cool because comedy people I think are very strong dramatic actors often because comedy is harder than drama. But it does throw you off a bit, especially with him because like you said, I don't think I've ever seen him in a non-comedy. So I keep waiting for him to be funny and charming and he just never is in this film. And it's not his fault. It's the writing.
Big John? Big John? Little John?
What is this?
Like the first accused that most likely the fringes of white masculinity are going to throw against this film is that all of those elements were simply, forcefully inserted into this film just so that you can kind of get the left-leaning points as JW points or something like of this sort. Most likely this is like the first argument that you are going to get from the wackos when they attack this film. How do you feel? Is the accusation actually like valid this time through like in Halloween Kills?
They definitely did seem like they had a checklist that they were going down where they were like, okay, so we're making this film in 2021, so we have to have more people of color, we got to have a gay couple, we got to have like it did feel very rotary like that where it didn't feel organic, and that's why I feel like these characters aren't fleshed out and don't seem real because they are caricatures and it's this lip service towards a progressiveness that is not in this film at all.
I have one final thing to say and then I'm done, I promise. I think that the trailers for this film, trailers are intended to get they're intended to get butts in seats. That's what trailers try to do. But what I hate is when a trailer lies to me. And one of the ways that this trailer lied is, I think probably for me, the shot that sticks in my head from the trailer, that's usually the very last thing you see of the trailer, is this shot of Jamie Lee Curtis walking down the hall of the hospital. She's in her regular clothes, not a gown. She's in her regular clothes, and she's like determined. She's giving you that like Harrison Ford close up. I'm a woman on a mission. And it feels very like, oh, here we go. Bitch is done with this shit. She about to go kill some Michael Myers. Here we go. That's what it feels like. That shot is nowhere in this film because she's never in those clothes except for in the very first few minutes. And then she's in a gown the rest of the time and never does anything. That's
why I'm like, they had to have known. There has to be a game plan here. Like, why did they shoot that? Like, why include it in the trailer unless they knew people wanted to see that and they're sort of like, don't worry, we're going to get here eventually. But in the meantime, we have this like transitional film everybody has to get through. Because I'm like, they clearly understand why people are watching these films if they included that moment in the trailer.
Well, they shot like, I don't know if this is the same, but Laurie stomping out of the hospital with a knife in her hand. That was the alternative ending or part of the alternative ending, but they decided against it.
Usually alternative endings were endings that were not as good and test audiences hated it, so they had to shoot another one. But if that was worse than what we got, I gotta see that.
Yeah, really.
Another question that still kind of picks my mind, and this is once again aimed at the American participants, is that this film it has like much in the same vein as with the white angry mob and how that contrasts against the Capitol riots. Another kind of point that I noticed was that Halloween Kills, it takes violence that is real in the film's universe, but not in the universe outside of the film, like in real life, the Michael Myers murders, and it contrasts those against real in our time, or our word, but fictional in the film's universe violence, which is the razor blades hidden in the candy bar, which is a joke that the kids pull off. Now, we in Finland, we don't have the trick-or-treat culture, at least not yet, thank God. So this is kind of a horror scenario that we don't have to think about. But this is something that I can very well believe is something that goes in the minds of parents in America, where they let their kids go to trick-or-treating. So now that you have a film that has like here are Mike Myers murders, which don't happen in real life. Here's the razor blades in chocolate bars, which is something that can happen in the real world. How did you, Lisa and Zach, how did you guys feel about that? Like, was that also something like too close to reality, too close to home? Did it make you uncomfortable?
That was very weird. It just felt very random. That whole sequence felt really disjointed and odd. I mean, that certainly is like a huge urban legend in the United States. It was never actually a real thing that was a problem, but there had been rumors that people were like putting razor blades in apples and candy bars, and the news picked it up, and it really scared parents. I remember my parents sitting with me and going through my candy and checking everything before I ate it. So it actually is a huge, or it was a huge fear in the 80s and the 90s in the United States. But in terms of that moment in Halloween Kills, it was just very odd. It felt like thrown in there.
Yeah, I'd agree. It didn't sort of affect me in that, like, oh, wow, that was a little too close to home, because I was so thrown by, wait a minute, this is a joke that these kids are playing on this couple because they had I guess they had the good candy, like, you know, they gave the full candy bars as opposed to the little snack size. And I'm sorry, did a person just enter their home uninvited? Did a kid just break, literally, that would be called breaking and entering, break into their home just to steal their candy, and they thought it was for laughs? Haha. That was just weird. That whole thing was just weird.
I guess that's, however, that like there's a lot to talk about in about the film, but we are kind of running out of time. But let's jump into quickies and wrap up today's episode. So, as a first one, is there a special mention for an actor that you would like to give?
Kyle
which one?
motherfucking Richards was great.
Same.
I hope she keeps acting. I was like, damn, girl, you still got it. Let's go.
Yeah, a highlight.
I give this to, on my end, to Jim Cummings, who plays Pete McCabe in the flashback. The cop that gets shot in his neck by his partner. Cummings very much is just reprising his role from his two previous films, Thunder Road and Wolf and Snow Hollows. But it still was kind of interesting to see, partly because I do like this cop archetype that Cummings has developed.
Can I also count Dr. Loomis's brief appearance? Because I didn't realize how much I missed him until I saw his face, and then I was like, oh yeah, that's what this franchise is missing now.
Yeah, that's my special mention.
Sorry, I didn't mean to scoop you.
No, it's all right. Yeah, while it's not actual, I mean, well, depending on how they did it, the spirit of Donald Pleasance. You're right. Yeah. It is nice seeing him. It is very nostalgic.
Sorely missed.
Then again, you most definitely do have a spirit of Donald Pleasance, or at least his character now in Laurie Strode, who becomes then
True.
next out of his goddamn mad sage, and is the one to give his pure evil monologue speech. Then again, what was the moment? What resonated most with you, or vice versa? What did resonate the least with you? Whatever you wanna pick.
The thing that resonated the most with me was Why the fuck is Judy Greer wearing a Christmas sweater during Halloween?
Yeah. What? Do you think it was supposed to be symbolic where she's like, let's just get through this fucking holiday because it's a bad holiday and bad shit happens and I am fast forwarding
no
to
idea.
Christmas?
I have no idea, but I'm telling you, every time she's on screen, and I love Judy Greer, love her. But every time she was on screen, I'm looking at that damn sweater thinking, what was there something in the first, like I'm trying to make this make sense.
There needed to be a moment where she was like, I know you've all been wondering about my sweater. Everyone had to be like, yeah, what's happening?
In my opinion, it was kind of fitting because the marketing for Christmas shit starts even before Halloween itself has fucking ended.
Yeah, she could be one of those weirdos.
The calendars are already in stores.
Maybe.
Yeah, she already has her Christmas tree up. She could be one of those weirdos. Yeah, that actually would have been a nice character touch if they had like gone into that a little bit.
Yeah. She's like, after Labor Day, it's like, that's it. Time to get the tree out.
For me, it was the flashback, and I could have had like an entire movie's worth of just that.
Yeah, the flashback was really cool. One of the aspects of the franchise that I've always really enjoyed is seeing what other people were doing while Mike's doing his thing where he's killing a bunch of people, because it makes the community feel realer. So it was cool to see, like, you know, what these cops were doing when they were getting these like reports coming in that teenagers were being killed. That was very cool in terms of like world building.
But did you guys have some minor character that you paid attention to and thought that was kind of nice?
Kyle motherfucking Richards as Lindsay. Just a highlight for me. I love that she was freaking out at these kids who were not taking Mike Myers seriously in the playground. I was like, Lindsay, I'm on your side. So rest in peace. Gone too soon, but I'm glad we got a little.
Every horror film needs the person that's like, hey, have you guys not seen horror films? Do you not know what's happening
here? The voice of reason. That's why, like, once Lindsay's gone, I'm like, who's the voice of reason now? I guess it's Judy Greer, but Karen's real annoying. So, sorry. I guess we're not going to have like a compelling voice of reason.
What about that black lady of the couple who locks herself in with the supernatural serial killer?
Did they give her a name?
I don't remember.
I honestly don't know. But yeah, yikes.
Interesting character choice, I must admit.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to bring attention to the horrid performance of Anthony Michael Hall, who I really enjoyed in so many things. And he's I mean, for me, he's always going to be the nerd from Weird Science. I can't get it out of my head. But what was this? This was so over the top. This was so, and maybe he was directed to do that. Maybe he was trying to do it a little more grounded, and they just came in and were like, no, up it, gotta go more.
Looking at the overall performances of the film, or maybe even Halloween 2018, I would push the blame to David Gordon Green's direction.
Yeah, I wonder what he was telling them to do. I kind of wish I had been on set to hear what notes he was giving the actors, because he got some real strange performances from people who I know are capable of acting well. So I would be curious to know how he was coaching them. Yeah.
No.
So if you would have to describe the film in one adjective, what would that be?
I think it's hyphenated. I would say over the top.
I would say reversioning, as in moving back in the franchise and its themes.
Oh God, I don't even like confusing.
Yeah.
It's just the rapid tone switch is what killed it for me, because I can respect a film that swings for the fences and is bad. Like, if you go for it full throttle, but you have a clear vision, I'll respect you more than if you direct something like this that's sort of like, did you want it to be funny? Did you want it to be like serious and have gravitas and be like an homage to this franchise and the mythology of Mike Myers? I don't know what you're going for. Was it a political satire? Like, I just don't know, so I can't really respect it.
Do you think the third part will redeem this part somehow?
Now I'm like hopeful, because I want it to do well. I want Jamie Lee Curtis to have, the send-off she deserves. so many people love this franchise so much, and I want them to have a rewarding experience. So I'm hoping that they have a grand vision that we are just not privy to. Fingers crossed.
But would you actually consider that you could watch this film again at some date? Or is this okay? This is like hard pass.
No, yeah, I would rather watch a million other things than watch this again. I didn't enjoy it. I wouldn't recommend it to people. It's not good. Especially if you're a fan of the franchise, like there are better Halloween films to watch.
Yeah, I second all that.
Apart from the flashbacks, no need.
Yeah, so you wouldn't recommend this. How about you, Karri and Zach?
No.
Your thoughts?
I would not. I would only recommend this if someone was saying, can someone recommend a film that's not done well, that's way over the top, that leaves you questioning a lot of things? And, I would say, then you should go watch Halloween Kills.
Yeah,
but
you know who I would recommend this to? Somebody I hated. Like, if I really, really hated somebody and they were like, what Halloween film should I watch? Oh, have you seen Halloween Kills? Yeah, that's the only time I would recommend it.
Worth your time.
But Henrik, I remember that you did give a recommendation to the Halloween 2018, and something happened here. I would be curious to know where in your list would Halloween Kills be placed?
I actually can't say that yet, because I saw the film only yesterday. But I didn't hate it nearly as much as all of you. It is a film that does have its fair share of problems, and I'm not making a case that it's a great film. Like, the problems that have been raised today in the episode very much are there. This is a problematic film, but at the same time, and this might be like, as I mentioned in the beginning of the episode, the root of the podcast is in the process of me and Karri, the two of us, going through the entire franchise. And two things happened when we did that. A, I have the epiphany that American beer is absolute shit, Bud Light is undrinkable piss, and I refuse to touch upon American beer ever again. I don't know, like people tell me that there's good American beers, but perhaps somewhere in deep rural America there is like a cave where fucking hobgoblins are brewing good beer, but Bud Light, undrinkable shit.
Yeah.
And the second thing that happened was that I became more lenient towards the franchise because I just saw the franchise doing the exact same shit. The biggest example of this is the character of Sam Loomis, whose whole role is nothing but be unhinged, grow more and more unsympathetical as the sequels go on, and just give his goddamn speech. So when it came to Halloween Kills, even though Halloween 2018 had character development, had story development, had all that stuff that I really appreciated, I wasn't hugely expecting them from a film of Halloween franchise anymore. I mostly joined in just to see gruesome violence and gory deaths, and this film delivered.
Yeah.
There's that moment that you voiced out, the black nurse lady accidentally shoots herself in the head. I was giggling at the audience at that moment. I was like, oh my god, yeah, this is great. There's like a puff of red blood coming up back of her head. I was like, yeah. Good on you. And then there's like Michael gouges that little John's eyes out, like pushes his thumbs through his eye sockets. And I'm like, yeah, go ahead. Like, just rip and tear, Michael. And then he stabs some dude in the fucking eyeball. I'm like, yeah, God bless him.
You're really silly if you go into this film expecting quality. It's just kills, as the title says.
Yeah, precisely. It's in the title. And I can recommend the film with that mindset. If you are looking for anything more, if you are looking for like character shit that you got from 2018, it's an absolute disappointment. Don't do it. But if you go there with the mindset, I just want to see horrible violence committed on innocent people, I want to see a mental health patient jump to his death and then have a horrible close-up on his mangled body, then, this film delivers.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'll give you that. What about favorite quotes?
None, really.
For me, other than the hokey "evil dies tonight," which was only said about...
They really wanted that to be a slogan.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's when Anthony Michael Hall is in the emergency room and he's talking to the crowd and he's like, "Guys, listen up. The boogeyman is at large." The boogeyman is at large. Wow. Wow. That's a WGA award right there.
So, if you would have to, complete a sentence for me, you really know you are watching Halloween Kills when... ...
Well, you can't be sure if you're watching Kills or Rob Zombie's Halloween. You might be able to discern when you realize you're watching Halloween 2 1981 with 2021 flavors. And every subsequent sequel lends further credence to the so far unbeatable quality of the John Carpenter original.
I would say you really know you're watching Halloween Kills when you're laughing through things you shouldn't be laughing through.
Yeah, I like that one. You're watching Halloween Kills when you're hoping for better things for Jamie Lee Curtis in the near future.
Poor Jamie Lee.
She's a legend.
She's a goddamn legend, and she's having to go through this shit. How dare David Gordon Green?
Yeah, I do hope that they have something in store for her that'll just blow us all away. But I'm very nervous now.
In Gordon Green's defense, I must voice out that this isn't the worst that Curtis has gotten it in this franchise.
No, that's true.
Looking at you, Halloween Resurrection. What was that shit?
At least it was a way out for Jamie Lee Curtis, and then she came back here.
Yeah, well, that was like a way out quotation marks.
But it's increasingly unclear what the title Halloween Ends would mean. Is it like an oxymoron? Is it a suggestion? Wish?
I'm guessing that they are going to cap off Michael Myers once and for good, once again, until he will be resurrected.
Yeah.
Once again in some later date. But I'm guessing that I put my money on the guess that Gordon Green tries to end Halloween and the trilogy with Halloween Ends, and that's what it's aiming at. It's very strongly at least going into that direction now that they go through the entire trouble of killing the character of Karen, just so that Allison and Laurie now would have a personal reason to go against Michael Myers. Because if there's something that we all learned from the 2018 Halloween is that Michael Myers doesn't give a shit about Laurie Strode.
I hope they just follow the lead of Fast and Furious and blast Mike Myers into space. And then the next Halloween film is Mike Myers in space.
Mike Myers
and he's
X.
killing astronauts in a space station, and they just really go for it. That would make me very happy.
You can just check Halloween 6: The Curse of Mike Myers, which is it's not in space, but that also is bad shit stupid.
Or you can watch Jason X, which is basically that.
Is that it?
Jason X, yes, is in space. It's hilarious. It's such a great film. I mean, it's terrible. It's such a great, terrible film.
I would be just, I would like to say that it was fantastic to have Allison on board, and if you are willing, it would be great to have you on when we eventually cover Ends.
Yes, 100%. I'm down.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much, Allison, for lending us your time and being here to have a chat with us. You most definitely elevated this episode.
Yay, thank you.
And with that out of the way, dear listeners, what did you think about Halloween Kills? Try to leave us a comment in our Facebook page or social medias.
You don't have to.
There's also the YouTube channel where you can chime in and say what you will. Was there something from you, Karri?
No, you don't have to go there.
Go where?
Internets.
Yeah. Most likely also you won't. There's also the new Patreon that has just launched, patreon.com/theflicklab. Well, I hope even if you don't go to the internet, you go at least to the Patreon. Karri, where can everybody find you?
They won't find me. I'm on a Twitter break.
Oh, smart.
Good for
Smart.
you.
Yeah.
Good for you.
But you can find this podcast in the abomination called Twitter at the Flicklab.
And you can find me also on Twitter at ZacharyPen48.
Yeah, and you can find me from the nearest morgue with my quietly dying career as a film podcaster.
Really? Where can we find Allison?
I'm also trapped on Twitter at Allison Kilkenny. It's just my name on all social media platforms. I'm not creative. You can just find me under my name.
Perfect.
And is there something else, Allison, that you want us to still shine a light on here now that we are closing the episode? Some project or friends project or something like that you really would like to have our listeners to find?
Oh, wow. No, I guess just there are so many good horror films out there. I'm really enjoying Shudder right now. I'm obsessed with Shudder, and I've just been, going through the top 50 films on Shudder in 2021, and I'm just so impressed by the wealth of talent out there. And yeah, watching Halloween Kills, I'll say this, a positive thing about Halloween Kills is it made me appreciate good filmmaking that much more.
I must confess, I am somewhat jealous of Americans who are having Shudder.
It's great. I'm obsessed with it. The app itself is very glitchy sometimes, but the content on it is just amazing.
But at least we have Mubi. What's our next stuff, Henrik, on the podcast?
God help me if I know. What even is the theme of our next episode?
Okay, so we're gonna have 3 films from the Iranian director Abbas Kiarostami. So it's going to get a little bit artistic. We've been in Americas for a couple of episodes now, and let's take a turn.
Yeah, but perhaps we have to remember that we are at least supposed to be an international film podcast.
Yeah, I have to remind myself also sometimes.
Yeah, we also have to remind our listeners that the theme song that you heard in the beginning of the episode was created by Nick Grivell.
Oh.
Once again, dude, thanks a lot for that one.
And I guess that's it.
That's very much it.
In that case, see you in a fortnight.
Until then.
Later. This movie is a triumph. Its action sequences are engaging. It highlights Jamie Lee Curtis as being a badass, and the scares are terrifying.
I saw this young boy. There was nothing behind his eyes.